Hello everyone, today we're going to be building a portfolio website, and this is what we're going to be building. So it's very minimal, but it looks very nice. It has an H1 right there with simple links that we're going to use React Router DOM for our routing. And for this we're going to get a font from Google Fonts so that it has the semblance of a logo. So if I click on get started, it will take me to a form which has the method of post, so it doesn't really do anything. And if I go back home and click on projects, then we get this page the same way as we would if I were to click on projects right there. And if I click on higher, it goes back to this page. So it's very simple and it looks very nice, and we're going to use TailwindCSS for this project. So you can head over to tailwindcss.com/docs/installation. I'm going to leave this link in the description. So before we get started, make sure that you run npx create react app. I wrote it down somewhere. Make sure that you run npx create react app, which will generate the boilerplate for which we're going to use. And I just added two folders. This is my images folder, I'm going to explain in a moment, and the assets folder as well, I'm going to explain in a moment. So once you do that, it will generate for you the node modules, the public folder, and all these files that are inside here, except the assets, the images, and the to-dos. I'm going to explain those in a moment. Okay, so let me just start by installing TailwindCSS. So once you go to this website, you can click on create react app because we're dealing with React, like that. And then we've already done these two steps because I've opened my application in VS Code. So I'm just going to grab this, copy that, and open my integrated terminal using control and tilde, like that. And then I don't want to run this yet because the next installation step actually also uses npm. So I'm just going to grab this, and then place two ampersands and then paste it right there. And then now I'm going to run it, which will generate a few things in our package.json, and we're going to see them once they get installed. But we can still go ahead with these other steps, and we can say we can just copy these three lines because we're going to need to replace them in our package.json. So if you go in your package.json where you have scripts, we are going to replace these React scripts using the Krakow, the create react app compatibility override, like that. And then we can say we create a Krakow.config.js file. So I'm just going to copy this, copy that, and then in the root of my workspace, I'm going to create a Krakow.config.js file, like that, and then just paste it in, save that, like that. And then we're going to have to wait for this to now finish running before we can continue. Okay, so this has finished running, but I just realized that I made a mistake. So I'm going to go back here and I'm going to copy this. I installed this wrongly, so I'm just going to oops, not that one, right there. I'm going to install that as well. And I think I can close this window because this is the window that has this preview. So I think I'm just going to close it down, right? And then I can close this. Okay, so let me talk about Netlify just for a moment. So we're going to be deploying our application to Netlify, and I'm just going to log in, but probably if you don't have an account with Netlify, it's going to ask you to create an account or authenticate with, I think, GitHub. I prefer to use GitHub because we're going to be deploying our application to GitHub, which will provide us with continuous deployment if we were to make any changes to our website. So as you can see, I also have my GitHub open right there. And then actually that's it really, but I'm not going to log in for now. I'm just going to leave it on this page. We're going to log in at the end once we are deploying it to Netlify. Okay, so this has finished running, but I can't seem to see our dependencies installed. Our dependencies are not installed. Why? Let's see. Let me remove this. Let me see if I can install them once again. And wait. Oops. Let me see if I can install them Again, it shouldn't take long if they're already installed, really. I think I just messed up in the installation, but it's okay. It's okay. Okay, so I just reinstalled them, and now as you can see, they're already there. And then we can continue to move on with these steps. So we were here, so we need to run this command. So I'm just going to grab this, copy it, paste it right there, which will create a Tailwind config.js file for us. Let's see. Let me just copy this because we're going to need this actually. So I'm just going to grab this, copy it, and then once this runs, it creates this file, so Tailwind config.js, and we're just going to replace this line actually. So I'm just going to grab this, copy that, and just paste it there, and then save it. I think that's all we need for those. And then we need to now grab the base components and the utilities, and we need to paste them inside our index CSS right there. So I'm going to remove this first because we don't need it, and then I'm going to remove this, and then at the top I'm going to paste this in like that. And then once we do that, it's imported in Create React App, then we can begin working with Tailwind CSS. Just to mention something, we're going to be using this extension Tailwind CSS in IntelliSense, so you can go ahead and install it. You can search for it in the marketplace and then install it. It's called Tailwind CSS in IntelliSense. It really helps because it lists down the styles that are available for Tailwind in case you've forgotten it, for example. Okay, so let me talk about this images folder. Now this images folder contains projects that I've done from Frontend Mentor. So it has the EasyBank landing page, the Philo, the Hurdle, Ensure, and the intro component. So these are the images that I'm going to use to create our data array for our projects. I have now realized that I shouldn't have closed that page, but it's okay. So we're going to be using these images for our data array, which are going to display in our projects tab. I recommend that you actually use images of projects that you have done yourself, so that you can link them to a website if you have deployed them, for example. But this is, notice that this is outside the workspace. It's outside the workspace because in case you want to grab the repository once you deploy to GitHub, then you can just go ahead and grab this folder from the GitHub instead of having to clone the entire project. So once we begin, I'm going to copy this. Let me just do it. In fact, I'm going to copy this and I'm going to paste it inside my public. So just paste it inside there like that, so that they are served from the public folder. And then for the assets, I just have one image that I got from pexels.com. So this is our background image. This is the image that we're going to use. Let me close this terminal. So this will be our background image for the home page. And then yeah, I think that's it because we have already run this, so I can remove this. So we're going to deploy to GitHub and Netlify, and we need to run this. So let me do that because we need to install React Router DOM and React icons. So I'm going to say npm install React Router DOM, and then I just want to install all of them twice. So I'm just going to place a spacebar and then say React dash icons and say dash dash the save flag. So this will install React Router DOM and React icons. So I'm going to let that run, and then we can begin some cleanup in our public folder. I'm going to remove everything inside here. Oops, not everything. I'm going to remove everything except the index.html. So let me just grab this, delete, and then in the index.html, I really hope I remember to change this. I know I always say this, but I end up forgetting. I'm going to change the description, and I'm going to say developer portfolio website like that. And then I'm going to remove this manifest. Actually, from this comment up to this comment, I'm just going to remove everything like that. And then for the title, I'm going to say portfolio. Let's just say portfolio, or let's say developer portfolio. And then we can remove this comment, and just like that. Okay, let's save that. Now in our source folder, make sure that you're in your source folder. I'm going to remove the app CSS, the app test.js, the logo, report web, and setup tests. I'm going to remove these. delete all of them. And then in my index.js, I'm going to remove this because we have deleted it, and remove the import as well. And then in app.js, I'm going to remove these two, and I'm just going to import React from React like that, and then remove all of this and return a fragment, React fragment like that. Oops, doesn't have a full stop. And then I'm going to return an h1 saying portfolio like that. Okay, so let me see, this has finished running, so I can say npm start, which will start our development server. Oops. Let me see, in my package JSON, I don't have create React app compatibility installed, so let me say npm install, what was it, like that, was it like that? Let me install this, and then I think it will fix this error. I really hope it does. Okay, so this has finished installing, so I'm just going to say npm start once again, and it should now start our development server on localhost 3000. Yeah, so that should be right. That should be right. Okay, so our server started, and as you can see, it just returns portfolio as we would expect, because in our app.js we just return portfolio like that. So I'm going to place this to the side and place this to the side like that. Okay, so to get started, I'm just going to start immediately. Let me close this and import React Router DOM to set up our routing. So import browser router as router, give it an alias, and I'm going to import route like that, coming from React Router DOM. And then I'm just going to set up my routing right away by wrapping all of this inside our router tag, which I've imported right there. And then I'm going to set up my first route like this, and the path for this will be going to slash just forward slash really, by the way. And then I'm going to give it an exact prop so that it doesn't conflict with other routes. And then I just want to render my showcase component, which I'm going to create. And then for my second route, actually let me just copy this. For my second route, I'm going to remove the exact prop, and I want to render my projects component. And then finally for my third route, I just want to render my higher component, which we are going to create. So this will contain our array of objects, which will have our images from the images folder, and then this will contain our form. Okay, so let's import all of these components that we don't have currently. So I'm going to say import showcase from, we're going to create a folder for it, so it will be coming from components slash showcase, and then just copy that down 3 more times, because we want to have a header component as well, which will have our logo right there and our items. Okay, so I'm going to actually I should have done this should be header first, then this is showcase, and then this will be projects, and then this will be the higher capital. Now the path for this will be / projects like that, and the path for this will be / higher. So let me save that, and then we can create our components folder. So inside the source folder, I'm going to create a new folder called components, and as you can see, our application has crashed because it doesn't have all of these components. I'm going to create the new file, call this header.js, another new file called this showcase.js, another file called project.js, and then a final one called higher.js like that. And for each one of them, I'm just going to do RAFCE, and this is coming from an extension called ES7 React Redux GraphQL and React Native Snippets, so you can install it and we'll be able to use these shorthand properties. So for this one, I'm just going to say header component. For the showcase, I'm going to do the same thing and say showcase component. For the projects, I'm going to do the same thing and say projects component, and then for the higher JS I'm going to do that, say higher component, like that. So this should now fix everything, I hope so. Let's reload that and let's see, and look at that. So we have our header, which is by default it's outside of the route, so this will always show no matter the page. And because we are on the / we have our showcase component. If I were to go to the /projects, let's do that and say / projects, we have projects components. And then if I were to go to / hire, not hire dev but hire, we have hire component. So our routing is working, as you can see. So right away I'm just going to start with my header because it's the easiest, and inside my header I'm going to return a fragment like that, and then I'm going to return a header tag, and then inside the header I'm going to have a div with a class of logo. Should I? Oh yeah, with the class of logo. I know why. I'm going to explain that in a moment. And then I'm going to return a link, which is a component that we get from React Router DOM that we need to import. So I'm going to say import link from React Router DOM, and then this takes a to-prop. So the to-prop for this will be with the /, which will be the route back to our home page. And then I'm just going to say TSB Sankara, like that, so that when you click this you go back to the home page. And then we're going to have a navbar with ULs and LIs, and each one of them is going to have the same link component, like that. Oops, I should have returned 2 of them, 2 or 3 of them, let's say 3 link, like that. So 3 of them. So this first one will be going to the / and it will be called home. This second one will be going to / projects, and it's called projects. And then finally this third one, so the to prop for this will be going to / hire, and then it's called hire, like that. And let's see, actually I want this to be inside an h1. Really, is that would that be nice? Let me just put it inside an h2, like that. Let's save that. Let's see how it looks. It should show something, but it doesn't show anything. Why? Really? What's happening? What is happening? This is the header. This is the header. This is the header. So it should be showing everything inside here, but it doesn't. What? Okay, now I think I need to restart my server, so let me just do that. Give me a moment. Okay, so I've restarted my server, and as you can see we have our header component. So this goes to home page. If I click on projects, it will take us to the projects component as we expect, and the hire will take us to our hire component. So I'm just going to go back to my home page, and then for this, the reason why I added this logo is because I want to add a font that we're going to get from Google Fonts to this, so that it looks like it has the resemblance of a logo. So I'm going to go to fonts.google.com, and I'm going to grab the font called Netlify, like that, and it only has one style, so just grab this style and then import it. So I'm going to grab the import, like that, copy that, and then inside my index CSS, let me place that full screen. I'm going to import it at the top, so let me place it above that. And then I'm going to say for my class of logo, I want to target the h2. As you can see, I placed it inside an h2, and I'm going to say font family for this to be Netlify, and remember it's a cursive font, like that. So once I say that, this should reload, and we should have our logo technically. Okay, so let me close that. I can actually do this, and as you can see, we now have our logo right there. We're going to style it up a bit, and actually can begin to do that using Tailwind. You can say this, give this a class name of flex, like that, I can say items. No, I don't really want item center. I just want justify between, like that, which will take them end to end, like that. And then let me add a padding on the x-axis of 5, so we to push them inside. Let me add a padding on the y-axis of, let's say, 1, just to push them down a bit. And then inside here you can say give this a class name of flex, which will align them like that. And then inside each of this, so I want to select multiple. I'm going to use my alt key. So this is the first one, and hold down alt for the second one, and then the third one. I'm going to give each one of these a class name of margin right of, let's say, 5, like that. Actually, I've just realized I don't want this on the last one, so I'm going to remove it because it technically already has a padding on the x-axis. So I don't want to add more margin because it will move more inwards than the logo, which I don't want, like that. Okay. Okay, so that looks nice. And then for the h2, I want it to be bigger, so I'm going to give this a class name of, let's say, text 3xl. Oops, 3xl, like that, for smaller screens, for mobile, of course, like that. And then now, one thing that I want is I want this to be a transparent background, so I want to give this a position of absolute. So the class of absolute, a Tailwind, which will do this, which we don't want. I'm going to say I want the width for this to be full, so that it goes back to end, like that. And then we can begin to work on our showcase. So I'm going to go inside my showcase component, and I'm going to say import, not really import, but I want to return a section first of all, a fragment, sorry, and then return a section, the section like that. So the section for this, I want to give it a custom class name, which are going to style. So I'm just going to call it showcase, like that. And then return a div with a class of overlay, like that. And then return an each one saying I create brand awareness for small businesses. And then I want to style these two words differently from the rest of the h1, so I'm going to place this inside a span, like that. And then below this, right below this, I want to have another div which will have our buttons. So the buttons will technically be links, so I'm going to return a link component from React Router DOM. Let me see if I can auto import it. Does it have the option to auto import? It doesn't. Okay, there you go, it auto imports it, as you can see. And I'm going to have the first link. The first link for this will be going to my hire page, and it's going to say get started for the text, get started. And then for this second one, this will be going to my projects page, and it's just going to say projects, like that. Right, let me save that. Let's see what happens. And we get that. I don't know whether you can see it, but it's technically currently behind our header. So let's fix that. I'm going to go into my index.css, place a comment here and say for the showcase, I want a height of 100 viewport heights, not 1200, really, 100 viewport heights. And then I want the background to be URL, and the image that we have in our assets, this image right there. It depends on whatever image you decide to use, really, like that. And it's coming from the assets folder, and it's called showcase JPEG. It only has one /. Set this to no repeat, and center and cover, like that. And then I'm going to go inside my showcase class and target the div with the class of overlay, and I'm going to give this a height of 100 viewport heights as well, and give it a background color of RGBA 0000.8, so that it's very dark but still a little bit transparent. So I'm going to save that, and then I'm going to go back into my showcase. So once this reloads, if it can reload faster, I can close this. We have this. Okay, now the text currently is unreadable. We're going to fix that in a moment. Actually, let me do that. In my header, I just want to go inside the header, and I'm just going to say text white, which will turn everything white, like that, looking nice. And then in my showcase, I want this class to display flex items center, and justify center. which will bring everything to the middle, and then let me say text white as well. It will do that, and then I want them to be aligned in column form, so I'm going to say flex col like that. And then let me increase the size of this h1, so I'm going to say give this a class name of, let's say, text 5xl. Is it text 5xl? I can say font semi bold, right? Let me say text right, so that it aligns to the right instead of the left. And then I can say margin on the bottom, increase that to 5 so that it pushes this down. And then for the span, I'm going to target the span and give this a class name of text green dash 500 like that. Let me change this to bold. Yeah, bold looks much better. And then I want this to also be aligned to the right, so I'm going to go inside this div, give this a class name of text right like that. Is it? Does it not work? Text right. Let's see. Okay. Did I mess up somewhere? Class name text right. Let's see text green. Let's see. Let me see something. Let me see if I go inside here, give this a class name of text green. This isn't working. What is up with my server today? I'm going to have to restart it. Okay, but you know what, let me just style this up a bit before I restart it. So give this a class name of text dash right, which will align this to the right, or it should. Or am I really trolling? Let me see. If I say margin left of auto, it should push it to the right like that. Okay, so it's fine. Then I can go inside these links and say give this a class name of margin right of, let's say, 5 like that. Separate them out, and then add a padding on the entire section so that this moves inwards just a bit. And I'm going to add it on the div. Let me show you what happens if I add it on the section. It moves inwards and then it exposes the image, which I don't want. So I'm going to add it on the div and say px5. So padding on the left and right of 5. And then let me style these buttons. So for the first one, I'm going to have a class of bg green dash 500, and I'm going to say padding on the y of 2 and padding on the x of 4 like that. And I'm going to give this a class of rounded dash full right. And then for the hover, I'm going to say, actually let me say font semi bold. And then for the hover, I'm going to say I want the BG to be a darker green, so green 800. And then I'm going to say transition dash all, so that there's a little transition effect, as you can see right there. And then I'm just going to grab all this and copy it down there, and then change this to BG white like that, and then change this to change the text also to be to green and 500. Let's see how this looks. So right there. Okay, so for the hover, I need to change the text color, so change this to text white on hover, and look at that. So we have, let me increase the margin between these two. Actually increase the margin for my right there, increase this to 10. That looks much better, and as you can see, look at that. And if I click on this, it takes us to get started page, and this takes us to the project page that we are going to deal with in a moment. So actually, let me just first scale this up, because as you can see, I don't want this to happen, right? So I'm going to start scaling it up at about large widths. So I'm going to target my H1 and say for large widths, I just want to say text center like that, which will bring it to the center. And then let me say for large, let me also increase the font size. So I'm going to say text, let's say 8XL too big 6XL 7, let's say 7XL. And I want to add some padding so that this doesn't go all the way to the end. It's much easier to read it when it's a certain width. So I'm going to say for large, let me say padding on the X of, let's say, how does 20 look? How does 32 look? 40, let's say 40. 56. Yeah, 56 is much better, as you can see. And then I want this to align to the center as well. So where I placed a margin left of auto right there, I'm going to say for large screens I want the margin left to be 0, which will center them back like that. And just like that we will be done with the home page, but I technically still want to increase the font size for this. So I'm going to go into my header and I'm going to say for large screens on my header I want this to be text, let's say 5 text 5XL. That's looking nice. Let's say 4. No, 5 is much better. Okay, and then I want this higher button to be the call to action button. I've just remembered. So for the higher button right here, I'm going to give this a class name. Actually, you know what, it's styled the same way as this. I'm just going to go into my showcase and then I'm going to grab this, going to grab that, and then inside my header I'm just going to paste that in like that. And then let me increase the padding on the header so that this doesn't go outside, as you can see. And actually let me reduce this to padding 1. Let me increase padding on the header. Where was it? Padding on the Y, let's say padding of 3, which will push it down just a bit away from the top of the browser. Okay, so next let's deal with the projects page. Okay, so for the projects component, this is what we have currently, and then we are going to need to create. So we are done with the showcase. I can close this. We are also done with the header, and I think we're done with the index CSS. For the to-dos, I'm going to delete this file so it doesn't really matter. And I've just remembered, let me change this theme color now that I've remembered it. So I want this theme color to be the same shade of green that we have here. So it's a green of, let's say, 065F46. So 065F46 like that. After which I can now finally close this index HTML, and then let's deal with our projects page. So for our projects page, we need to get these images and then display them. So I'm going to create an array of objects for that. Inside my source folder, I'm going to create a new file and I'm just going to call it data.js like that. And I'm going to say const data equals to an array of objects like that, and then export default data. So this will take in I think just 3 things. It will take in the ID, it will take it the image path, so this will be coming from /images/ the first one I think is EasyBank, so it's called EasyBank landing -page.png. Let me increase this. And then the third one that is going to take is just a description, and I'm just going to say EasyBank landing page. And then I'm going to grab this and copy it 5 more times. So I'm going to say Shift and Alt and just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then change this to 2, change this to 3, this to 4, this to 5, and finally this to 6. And then for the second one, this second image is called Philo landing page, and it's called Philo like that. This is called Hurdle curved sections. So hurdle curved sections. This is called hurdle landing page. Hurdle landing page. This is called ensure landing page. Ensure landing page, and this final one is called intro component. So intro component like that, and we have intro component. like that. So once we've created our data array like this, we need to import it. So I'm just going to say import data from it's outside our source folder, so it's outside our components folder, sorry. So 2 dots, then / and it's called data, and then we need to import use state from React so that we can get our state values. So use state, and then I'm going to set up my state values. Oops. And I'm going to say const let's say let me just call them items, and I'm going to say set items this to use state, and it's going to we are going to pass in our data that we have right there. And then I'm just going to remove this so that you can set up our return statement properly. I'm going to return a fragment, and then I'm going to return a section like that, and then I'm going to map over my data. So I'm going to say items.map like that, and for every item then I want to destructure it. So I want to destructure the ID, the path, and the description. So this will be coming from the item like that. And then you can set up our return. So I want to return a div with the key of ID like that, and then I'm going to return an image. The source for this will be the path, and the alt for this will be the description like that. And then I want to return a small tag just with the description like that. So let's save that and let's see. And look at that, we have this. So it's looking very nice. So let's begin to style it. Let me close this and begin to style this. So for this section, first of all, I want to push this down because as you can see, it's currently under the header. So I want to push it down, and I'm going to say padding on the Y, let's say padding of 20. Is 20 too much? Let's say 10. No, 20 is okay. And then I want them to push inwards away from the edge, so I'm going to say padding on the X of 5 like that. And then I want this to have a background color of green, so I'm going to say BG green and say 800. Look at that. So now we can finally see our header is right there and our images are right there. So we are going to style these images a bit more. So I'm going to style these images a bit more. So I'm going to give the image a class name of padding all round of, let's say 5, which will push them inwards. And then I'm going to say BG green of 500 so that we have an outline on them. Give them a class of rounded like that. And then let's say I want them to be a grid, and I want the grid columns are currently 1, so grid calls 1, and then give them a gap of, let's say 5 so that they push away from one another. Oops, what am I doing? This shouldn't be here, sorry for that. This is not here, this is on the section like that. As you can see now, they push away from each other. And then I want this small text to be aligned to the center, so I'm going to say give the small a class of block first of all, class of block, so that I can say text center, and then they'll align to the center. And then I'm going to say text white like that, and then I'm going to say font semi bold, and let's say text medium like that. No, let's say text large. Okay, yeah, text large should be fine. It should be fine. Now what you can do is that you can place these images to be links, so that when you click on them, it takes you to the web page for the project that you are showcasing right there. And as you can see, this looks nice. So we just need to scale it up, and I can say let's begin to scale it up. So at about, let me start with the small. So I'm going to say for the small width, which is about 640 pixels, I'm going to say grid columns. I want this to change to 2, and this happens. And then finally for large screens, so for large screens, I want the grid columns to be 3, just like that. And as you can see, we need to fix something right there. So on large screens, I just want I want it to be 100 viewport heights. So I'm just going to say H screen. I think that's the class for 100 viewport heights like that. Look at that. So it's looking nice, and we need to add some more padding to this so that this doesn't look so close to the our header. So I'm going to say once again, for large screens, I want the padding on the top to be, let's say, 32, and we have that. Looks much better, much better. So we have our home page, as you can see. We have our projects page, and this takes us back to the home as well. So we need to work on our higher component, our form, technically. So now that we're done with the projects, I can close this down, and I can close our data array down as well, and we can begin to work on our higher component. So for the higher, once again, I'm going to return my fragment, right, and then I'm going to return a section, and this section will have a div with an h2 saying higher dev, like that, and then a paragraph below it saying replies within 24 hours, like that. And then I'm going to have a form with no action really, and then we're going to say this will have an input, right? It will have an input with a type of text. The name for this will be username, the ID will be username, the placeholder will be, what am I writing? The placeholder will be enter your username, like that, and then set that to required. And I want this form to have a name, so just give it a name. Oops, really? Give it a name of feedback form, like that. And then we're going to also have another input with a type of email, and the name of email and ID of email, placeholder saying enter your email, set it to required once again. And then we're going to have another input, really. No, we're going to have a text area, because you want to be able to allow the users to write a message. So it's called a name of text area. Let me just copy this, it's faster, with an ID of text area, like that. And then we need to set a placeholder for it as well. So I'm going to say enter message, and then set it to required once again. So once we do that, we need finally our submit button. So I'm going to say input with the type of submit, oops, like that, with the value of submit. And then yeah, I think that should be it, like that. And I know you can't see anything currently, so I need to change. Actually, you know what, I don't need to change anything. I want this section to have a class of, not class, but class name of showcase. And then I need to wrap all of this, so this div and the form, so the div and the form, I want to wrap this inside a div with a class of overlay, which means that it will take the classes of our showcase component. If you remember, we had a class of showcase and overlay with the background image. So once I save that, it should bring this right there. So now we can see that our form is right there, and then we can see our hire a dev, and you know, this first div right there. So let me style this. I'm going to say flex items center and justify center, like that. And then I want this to go in column form, so I'm just going to say flex call, like that, which will bring them down. And then for the form, I want this form to have a class name of flex as well, and flex call, like that, like that. So let's begin to style this div. Give this div a class name of bg green dash 500, like that. Let's say let's see if I can say give this a width of 9 out of 12, which is 75%. Not what I wanted. Let me add a padding on the y of, let's say, 10, and padding on the x of 20. Let's see how that looks. Not bad really, but not good either. So let's say padding all round of 10, like that. And then let's say for the h2, give this a class name of text white, font semi bold, let's say margin bottom of 5, like that. And then I want also text center for this, and then I'm going to say text XL. Increase the font size, let's say font 2XL, let's say 5XL. That's okay. And then we can deal with our paragraph once again. Actually, I'm just going to copy everything here, place them inside a class name like that. Let's save that. Let's see how that looks. We don't want that. We want this to reduce to text XL. Let's say text medium. That's much better. And then we can begin to work on our form. And I'm going to say for the form, I want the same padding right here. Where was it? The same padding right here on the form. So I'm going to copy that, and then on the class name, just paste that in. Oops, that's not what I wanted. That is not what I wanted. Instead, actually, you know what? Let me just style the inputs first of all, and I want to style all the inputs with the same styles. So I'm just going to select multiple of them, and I'm going to say for the first input, click right there, and then I'm going to hold down Alt, and then click right there, and then click right there on the text area. So I want these to have a class name of, let's say, padding on the Y, let's say 2, and padding on the X, let's say 5, not 5 but 4. And then we can say margin bottom of 5, right? Let's see that happens. And then you can say rounded, and then I want to add a border on them, so I'm going to say border, and then say border solid, and then say border green dash 500, which will place a green border on it. I don't know whether you can see it. And then we can say for the placeholder, I want, first of all, let me say the text to be green dash 500 when you write inside it. And then I'm going to say for the placeholder, I want the text to be green and 500 as well. As you can see, the text changes. And then I'm going to say font semi-bold, like that, looking very, very nice, very nice. And then actually I think that will be it for that. Let me add this background color on the form as well. Actually, no, not on the for the form. Let me add a BG, a lighter background, so BG green of 500. Is it the same as this? Really, it's actually the same. Interesting. So let me remove that from there, and then let me add it where, let me grab let me see if I add it here, it's going to take up the entire page, which I don't want. Let's see. Oops, doesn't it? And I've just realized that my Tailwind extension isn't working, but that's okay. Okay, let me style our button. So I'm going to say for the input with the type of submit, give this a class name of bg green dash 500, so the same as our theme color, like that. Let's say text white, let's say font bold, and let's see how that looks. Submit. Let me increase letter spacing, so tracking wider, like that. And then I can say padding on the Y of 2 and padding on the X of 4. Actually, I don't even need padding on the X, really. Yeah, I don't need padding on the X. Give this a class of rounded, like that. And then cursor of pointer, and then transition all, transition dash all, so that when I add the hover effect and turn this to a darker green, there's a transition effect, like that. Looking very, very nice, very nice. And let me just scale this up. I'm going to deal with this in a moment, don't worry. So let's just scale this up. Where was it? Was it here? Wait a minute. Okay, yeah, right there. I'm going to say for let's see, for large screens, I'm going to say flex row, so that it goes in raw form. Let's see, like that, and then you can see, oops, right there. Okay, I want this to be bigger, like that. Okay, I can give this form, this is the div with the class of this is the, okay, so for light screens I can give this height of, how do you add height? I've forgotten how you add height, so I'm going to say height of, let's say 9/12. Let's see if that works. Nope, that doesn't work. Let me go to nerdcave.com for the Tailwind cheat sheet, where I can get my heights. Wow, this is taking a while to load. It's taking a while to load. Taking so long to load. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Okay, so you know what? Let me add a background color on the form. So I'm going to say for the form, I'm going to write there and say BG green, make it even lighter, so BG green 200, like that. Let me add a padding on the X of 10 and padding on the Y of, let's say, 5. Okay, actually I should make this a bit smaller so that I can see what we are styling. And then I'm going to give this a class of rounded, like that. And then I'm going to say this has a padding on the X of 10. So if I were to go here, let's say padding on the Y and say padding on the X of 20, of let's say 19. No, 19 doesn't work. 18 is there. Is there no 18? 16? Let me reduce this to padding of 8, like that. There's something I'm missing. What am I missing? I can't seem to find what it is that I'm missing. Actually, this would have rounded borders as well, so let me do that. So right there, I give this a class of rounded, so it has rounded borders. There is something that I'm missing. This has loaded finally, so I'm going to search for height. Height. Okay, so there's height there, right there. Height 2/3. I want, this is H1, this is H4. Okay, so I can go inside this class. Let me give this class before the large media query. Let me give this class a width of 9/12. No, what am I doing? You know what? I think I'll have to create another div where I can style this separately. Will I really have to do that? Give me a moment, guys. Okay, no, I think I'm just going to create another div for this div and the form so that I can style them differently, so that they can have equal heights and I don't have to keep guessing. So I'm just going to grab that up to right there, place them inside another div like that, and I can style this div, give this a class name of, let's say, width full. Okay, so I don't want width full. I want, first of all, let me remove padding on the X. Let me remove the padding on the X here and padding on the X right there. And then I'm going to say width of 9/12, which is 75%, like that. I've just realized why we need padding on the X right there, so let me return padding on the X of 10, which will push them inwards like that, which is what we want. Like, actually, this is really honestly what I wanted. And then let's scale it up a bit, and I can say on this div for large widths, I want the width to go back to auto, like that. And then, wait, isn't this working? Let me remove this from there, and I can say display flex on this, which will do that. So I need to adjust it, and I need this to flex column first of all. like that. And then on large widths, it's when I can say, so I can go right there and say on large I want the flex row. Is this not large enough? Okay, there you go, flex row. And then I can add for large widths, I want padding on the X. Let me say padding on the X of 10. Let's see how that moves. Not right there, not there, not there. I want it on this div, so I'm going to say for large screens, padding on the X of 10, like that. And then padding on the top of, let's say 32, which will move it downwards, like that. Okay. Let me place this full screen. And then I can say, instead of width auto, let me actually just remove this. Let me see how this looks. Let's say for large screen, let's say width full. No. Why isn't this working? Why is 9/12 not working? That's okay. Let's just return it to auto, which will place it to the center. And then I can say for this div, I want this should have a large, like that. Let's say for this div, for large screens, I want it to say, let's say width of, not width, but W of 9/12. Let me see what happens if I do that. Nothing happens. So let me just increase the font size for this, hire a dev right there. Let's say for large screens, let's say text, let's say 4XL. Nope, let's say 8XL, hire a dev, like that. And then let's increase the font size for this paragraph as well. And we'll say for large screens, let's say text to 4XL, like that. That might be too big. And then let me increase the width for the form. And I'm going to say for large screens, I want the form to have a width of 9/12, like that. We are getting somewhere, but I want it to reduce, so let's say 8/12. Let's say 7/12. Okay, so let me reduce the padding on the X, remove this padding right there. So I can go back to this div and say for large screens, let's say padding on the X of 0. Did I not have padding on the, I didn't have padding on the X. No, I have this padding. So I want to remove this padding. I'm going to remove this. Okay. Does this still have padding? No, it doesn't have padding. I think we're going to have to live with padding at least. Let's say px5. px5 looks fine. Let me reduce this font size to 7. Yeah, that looks much better. So we have hire a dev, replies within 24 hours. Actually, let me reduce this to 3. Wait, what? Okay, let's just leave it at 4. It's fine anyway. So we have our form, and I forgot to add a method on this method. So the method for this will be post, like that, because we don't want to submit personal information on the address bar. So we have our form right there, we have our projects page right there, and we have our home page looking fabulous. So we need to now deploy it to GitHub, right? And remember that when you do npx create react app, it automatically initializes a git repository for you. So I can close this server like that. It automatically initializes a git repository for you. So if you say git init, it will tell you reinitialized. So there's no need to do git init really. So the first thing that you need to do is create a new repository. So you can head over to GitHub, click the button, and I'm just going to call this portfolio react. Okay, right there. And then I'm not going to give it a description. I'm going to leave it at public, and the readme is added from React. This the default readme from React, so no need to do that. And then you can just say create repository. Okay, so once it does that, I'm going to copy this link. So copy the link to the repository like that, and then I'm just going to say git add all like that, and then I'm going to say git commit -m, and I'm going to say portfolio website like that. And then if you are not on the main branch like I am, then you'd have to do git branch -m, capital M, and then say main, so that you can go to the main branch. But I'm not going to do that because I'm already on the main branch. And then I'm going to say git remote add origin, and then just paste the link that I copied, and then I'm going to say git push -u, so upstream, and I'm going to say origin main. We should push it to GitHub. It takes a while, probably, depending on your internet speed, and it should push it like that. So if I reload this, then you see that this is everything that we need right there. Now remember, I've not created a build folder. So the reason why is because we are deploying it to Netlify, so Netlify will automatically create the build for us. So now if I go to netlify.com and log in, so I'm just going to log in like that, and then I'm going to say new site from Git, right? And then I'm going to select GitHub, and it will prompt me to log in, but I've already authorized it, so it just goes away completely. And I'm going to say portfolio react like that, which is the name of our repository. Portfolio like that. What am I typing? Portfolio. I don't know how to type. Okay, so there we go. So this is the repository that we have just created, this one right there, and I'm going to select it. And then the branch to deploy is the main branch, as you can see, the main branch. And then the build command is npm run build, and the publish directly will be the build folder that is created from this. So if I click deploy site, then you see site deploy is in progress, and you can click it to see the deploy logs. Where is it? I've forgotten where they are. Oops. Deploying your site. There you go. You can see the deploy logs right there. Oh, I've just remembered something. It's going to cause an error. I have just remembered something. If you go into our projects, then you see this, we don't use this function. So during development, this shows up as a warning, but when deploying it, it actually shows up as an error, and it will cancel the build process. So to fix that, I'm just going to place a comment and say ESLint disable next line like that, which will disable this from showing up as an error during deploy. You'll notice that it will fail. Don't worry about that. So I'm just going to add this folder back to Git. So I'm going to say cd into my source folder like that. I'm going to say cd into my components folder, and say git add projects.js like that, git commit, and I'm going to say disable unused function. I can't type unused function like that. Then I'm going to say git push, and if you go back to GitHub, you'll notice that our changes take effect. Disable unused function 10 seconds ago. Okay, and as you can see, treating warnings as errors because process.env.ci is set to true. So we'll need to redeploy this, so there's no problem. So I can go back to deploys, and then I can say first of all, let me just delete this. Okay, so it's already deploying aside again. Okay, so it's already doing the deploys again. As you can see, Netlify is very quick, and the Netlify bots are very quick to detect changes, so it's very convenient if you need continuous deployment. So as that works, let me change the site name for this. I'm going to change this to dev portfolio react .netlify.app, like that. Let's see how this is going. Let's see how this is going. Really, once it finishes, it should, as you can see, it's still saying building. So once it finishes, it should say completed. So it's still in progress, still in progress. Okay, so once it finishes deploying. As you can see, it says your site is deployed, and it has a little thumbnail of how our website looks like. So I can just click this or here, which will take us to our website, and just like that, your portfolio website will be up on the internet for anyone to discover. If you go to get started, you see we still have our form right there, and projects will load our images like that. So it's a very convenient, and any changes that you make and publish to GitHub. So if I were to make any changes right there and publish them to GitHub, then Netlify would redeploy the website once again, and they would reflect almost immediately, depending on your internet speed, really. Okay, so I think that will be it for this video. I hope you really enjoyed it. We built a very small website for a very small portfolio website, but it's very nice and very convenient. So please leave a like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.